Well, hey everyone. My name is Beau Junker. I'm a fifth grade teacher in St. Paul, and I'm just going to go ahead here and kick this speech off with a little story about one of my students in the book. The student's name is Dante, but I call him Donnie Tsunami. The nickname pays homage to one of the better Disney movies of all time, but it also lets you in a little bit on who Dante is as a student. If you were to graph out Dante's emotions every day on a piece of paper, it would look a lot like a wave, a pretty big wave. A lot of the time, Dante is way up here, and he's happy, and all is going well. But sometimes we come crashing down. The book in this story is called The Giver. On the outside, this book is a little bit intimidating, and it's super long, it's crazy heavy, but it's also a little bit weird looking, a little bit creepy. So those fifth grade brains are pretty into it. Dante was not excited to read this book. It was May. He had been listening to me read aloud for the last 8 months, and he just didn't want to do it anymore. So for the next few weeks, I need to battle it out with Dante. I gotta try every day to get him to read this book and to get into it. And then one day, I asked everyone to go back to the library, grab their book, and get ready to read. And for some reason that I'm still not sure of, that day, Dante does just that. He gets back to the library, opens up his book, and he doesn't say a word. There's no battle. There's no pushback. On the inside, I'm pretty psyched that I'm like fist pumping a little bit. But on the outside, I try to play it cool and try not to disturb the peace. So we get reading, and this chapter revolves around one of the characters in the book doing something really horrible, something really awful, but they don't really realize it. They don't understand what they're doing. They act totally normal after they do it. So I asked the kids, why is the character acting that way? They just did something awful. Why aren't they acting like they did something awful? Belinda raises her hand, of course. She's a genius. And she says, well, it's not bad to him. It's normal for him and the people around him. It doesn't really make it right, but it's all he's ever known. I'm a little bit blown away. I'm like, wow, that's perfect. But then in the faintest, quietest voice, tucked away in the corner of my library, I hear someone say, like me. It was Dante. I asked him what he meant by that, like me. Dante replies by saying, well, that's like when I fight. I fight sometimes because that's how I know how to solve my problems. I fight, my brother fights, my dad even fights too. I then asked Dante if that makes it okay then, to fight, if that's all he's ever known. He just quietly shakes his head no. I usually don't allow swearing in my class, but I pretend not to hear Armani mutter damn underneath his breath. The next 20 minutes consist of Dante and his classmates sharing similar stories of times where they did something wrong, but maybe didn't realize it. Or times where they did something that they've always been taught how to do, but they didn't really know that was wrong. Moments like that are why I teach. It's those unplanned, perspective-changing moments where all of my students come together and share incredibly hard truths in a place where they feel like they belong. Moments like that are also why I'm here speaking tonight. I was able to compile a class set of those books, The Giver, 20 of them, cost-free, while shopping at Kids in Need. On that day in late May, all it took was one of those books to give Dante that moment. It allowed him to feel empathy from his classmates. It allowed him to feel like he belonged in a classroom. For the last 10 years, Kids in Need has been providing my school with the tools needed to have moments like that every single day. The school that I teach at is called Life Prep. It's a small pre-K through 6 charter on the east side of St. Paul. Life Prep is this really incredible place to walk into every day. It's super colorful, kind of artsy. All of our walls are painted different colors. Our lockers are rainbow themed. The pillars at our school are painted like trees. Beige and gray don't really exist at Life Prep. And beyond the aesthetic of the school are some really incredible people that fill it. We teach around 250 to 300 of the best, most hilarious kids every year. They make every day this whirlwind of laughing, sometimes crying, but usually learning that make their teachers want to come back every single day. At Life Prep, we also have some incredibly tight-knit relationships among our staff members. I think I may take the cake on this one, considering that I'm about to marry the other fifth grade teacher in like 3 weeks. 2 weeks, sorry, 2 weeks. But between myself and other staff members, I have best friends. I have people that I look up to in more ways than just teaching. I have support at that school that I think goes way beyond that of a typical profession. We have a dynamic at Life Prep that makes us seem like a family, makes us seem like we belong. And I think it's relatively easy to do anything in a place like that, in a place where you feel like you belong. You feel that sense of carelessness to try something new and different, and you trust that you won't feel judgment. When that something succeeds, you feel the pats on the back and the encouragement. But when that something fails, you feel the support. Belonging tells you to tweak a few things here and there, or to scrap the whole thing altogether. Belonging laughs in your face and says, "You did what, Mr. Junker?" Or belonging empathizes, and it feels all of those worst feelings with you. When you're in a place where you belong, stepping out of your comfort zone and doing something new and amazing and different doesn't feel so terrifying. It just feels right. So as a fourth-year teacher now, I constantly ask myself, how do I give my students that feeling? How do I make them feel like they belong? This is a question that is really hard to answer, and it challenges me routinely. The reason behind this challenge is that some of the students at Life Prep come in with a lot of weight on their shoulders, an amazing weight. Weight that can tell a 10-year-old kid that maybe they haven't really belonged to anything, ever. I teach at a school where 80% of my students fall beneath the poverty line. I teach at a school where I can expect at least 1 or 2 of the kids in my class to become homeless that year, where organized sports only exist at a rec center, where the clothes on their back are the same clothes that their brother or sister grew out of the year before. At home, cell phones are shared, finding the neighbor's Wi-Fi password is celebrated. And no, I can't come over, I have to watch my little brother again, are words that are said all too often. Many of the students I teach go home to a place that doesn't necessarily feel like home. They go home to a place that doesn't always tell them that they belong. So I have to give that to them. When they walk into that building every morning, I have to give that to them. But once again, I ask myself, how do I do it? Well, on some days with some kids, it's as easy as letting that hairline joke slide and giving them a little ha-ha. But on other days with other kids, it's tucking a new alarm clock in a backpack when nobody's looking, with a note on it that says, "You bring too much to my classroom to miss this many days. Get to that bus on time." On the harder days, belonging for some of our students is a few extra bag lunches sent home because you and little brother seem a little bit more hungry than usual. But every day, with every kid at my school, belonging starts with them hanging up their backpack in their locker, writing with their pencils in their notebooks, reading novels that belong to them. So when I break it all down, I think that belonging begins with having what you need when you need it. This is my 4th time at the Gala, and the reason why I enjoy coming to this event isn't only because of those free, delicious cocktails or those crazy, amazing swag bags I'm waiting on. It's because Kids in Need gets it. They understand what my students need and they give that to them. Kids in Need allows my students to belong at school. They allow Kataya to organize her homework in a 3-ring binder that I shopped for last spring. Kids in Need doesn't let Samatar use the excuse, "I don't have a pencil," 48 billion times. Because in that backpack that every single one of the students at our school received last fall was a big box of pencils. Kids in Need allows Dante to find empathy and belonging through a book that I got last fall. This organization gives our students, those same smiling faces that you see on your placemats, a sense of belonging every time they walk into a classroom. And that matters so much, that feeling of belonging. I get to see it every day. The things this organization gives and the feelings that my students get afterwards have a profound effect. We're able to do amazing things because of Kids in Need. We're able to share amazing moments together in a classroom. So Kids in Need, thank you so much for making such a gigantic difference in our students' lives and for giving them that gift of belonging. Thank you.